I have a love affair for electric cars. And last year, 2018, I noticed an advertisement for an estate auction out in Canal, Winchester, Ohio, the estate of Lloyd and Shirley Young. And Lloyd had quite the car collection, and included in the car collection was a Milburn Electric. And it was pretty sound. It was in pretty good shape, actually. The colors were wild, and but otherwise the car looked pretty good. So my wife and I went out and we participated in the auction, and I came back with a car. So I brought it to Vintage Motor Cars in Westbrook that I worked on my Detroit Electric Restoration the year before.
One of the things that stuck out was, one, it was in much better shape than the Detroit that we did, but it looked like a bordello inside. It was, you know, Bill was very proud of it, and I just got it, and it was, I'm very friendly with him, so I didn't want to say, what the hell's going on inside this thing?
The flash occurred to me like, gee, I'm going to take this car to a car show with its rose metallic external color, which of course it didn't have back in the day, and this red velour interior, and people are going to laugh at me behind my back.
He originally, I don't think after just finishing the 31 Detroit, I don't think he really was whole heart, I want to get into another massive job. You know, it's going to drain my checkbook for years to come. His wife Linda came in. I think she kind of squashed the half and half stuff. I was like, I don't like the color, I don't like the interior. I know what I want this done differently.
So we said, the heck with it, let's go restore it. Carpet, yeah, where's the carpet?
Carpet is here, I think. Isn't this the carpet?
Red carpet? Carpet's right there, yeah.
Oh, so you're sticking with sort of a red theme.
If it turns out we take the paint off and it turns out we find it's green, then that'll say
change. But if you find out it's black, that'll be perfect.
Be fine, yeah. The significant thing we found in the restoration efforts as we took it apart, and Jim was trying to figure out why the back window didn't work. It was stuck.
So I had to remove all the wood boards in the back of the car so I could see what was going on inside the frame. When I took the boards off, this letter was laying right in here, just like that.
What was there was a letter addressed to Mrs. Stella Hanna in Waterloo, Iowa, and they had sharecroppers. And this letter from the Department of Agriculture at the time was told her what she could plant on the various lots, what the quota of corn and soybeans and whatnot. It was dated in 1937. Well, in contacting Miles Tweet, who's the expert in Milburns, that sent the Milburn history world into a tizzy, because what was believed to be Stella Hanna's car, he believed was in a museum in Moscow, and it clearly wasn't. It was here in Connecticut. That was quite the shock. So with Miles's help, we were able to piece together a couple of other owners, and doing research on newspapers.com and ancestry.com, we have a photograph of what we believe to be the original owner, which was Cora Seeley. She also lived in Waterloo. It's a black and white photo, but it certainly looks like a black car with light wheels. We now know through photographs and other records, we now know pretty much the history of the car. There are gaps in it, but we know 5 or 6 or 7 of the significant owners over its almost 100-year lifetime. So it was really quite the thrilling discovery. We also found other paperwork in the car. There was a playbill from a play that was advertised in Waterloo in 1938. There was a service record that we found for tires and battery service from 1930. We found a newspaper as well that was destroyed as we took it out. It basically crumbled, but basically these pieces of paper which told us so much about the car were either lost inside or used to stuff in cracks to keep the car from rattling. So they were all quite the find.
Jim made the decision to pull the glass out of it, which was an awesome decision. This car was straight glass, easy to take out.
Yeah, that's flat glass. No problem.
Jim went ahead, took it out, and it made my life a lot easier.
A little bit of work to get it out, but it's going to save a lot of time in the body shop because it's already been damaged by other people, scratched, sanded down in the corners. So I'm going to pull the glass out of the car. The seals, obviously, being 100 years old, just absolutely disintegrated. So we found a rubber that really worked well, looked great. We're going to replace that with this modern tack strip material. So it really doesn't matter if there's any variation in the glass thickness, because there's forgiveness right in here. There we go.
So we'll just take this to a glass company
Yep.
and say, do one of these?
And do 2 of them, yeah.
Or do 2 of them?
Yep.
No, that'll clean up nicely.
Yeah.
Put different
Yep.
glass in there.
Okay.
Sweet, you got it.
Awesome.
Nice.
You betcha.
We started to tear down. We got the interior out of the car and all the glass out. We sent it downstairs to the body shop.
Oh, that's splendid right there. Yeah, that's in the Dunlop.
As they were jacking the front of the car up and the wheels were off the ground, I noticed there was excessive play in the kingpins.
The other side's worse than this side.
Huh.
That side's worse than this side. That's where we're at. So
I didn't want to disable the car in the body shop. We waited till it came back upstairs.
I decided that if we're going to do this, we're going to restore this car to the way it looked originally.
We went serious. It was a pretty good choice to make the decision what Bill made. I don't think anybody would have been happy with seeing the car the way it was.
Well, you would think that that would be an easy thing to just take the various layers of paint off and see what the base layer or 2 was.
Before stripping it, we had made some decisions on how to find out what the colors were, which Bill was very adamant on what he wanted. This would make his decision on what colors he would go with. When we started stripping the car, we had some green in areas, had some black in areas. We had a blue in areas. Underneath door hinges was multiple colors.
So after a lot of investigation, it turned out the car was primed with like an orange color primer. It had a green base coat on top of that, and then black was the original top coat.
So it was definitely
black.
It was definitely black.
Somebody took them off. Those bumpers are Detroit Electric bumpers. Those aren't real bumpers for this car. So before she bought it, they did it to jazz it up.
It's kind of a pleasure to do stuff for people like Bill and Linda who take time to do the background of the car. Nobody does that. Nobody at all. I mean, he goes through and it's just amazing.
Well, you get it. You read that and you'll get inspired.
Yeah.
Because you guys can see your fingerprints all over this stuff. And as we took the layers of paint off, there was quite a lot of body work that had been done from multiple accidents. There was no clear picture that the car had been damaged in one accident or another. So pretty much all the 4 corners of the car had been damaged at one point or another.
So when the car was stripped, we all got a good look at it. We repaired the small areas for the dents, so forth, rounded in the areas around the trunk and the hood, which had some damage. We had 2 sections on which would have been the driver's door, which had to be cut out and replaced, which it had rot. On the right side lower windshield post, we had a hole which was actually a little about the size of a nickel, which wasn't bad, and it was coming from the inside out. We're just gonna have to grind all the lead out of here and then put another piece in there. Which kind of told us that sometime or another it got moisture in there, but it was a pretty simple fix. I mean, there was only minimal rust on this car. And then we put it in an epoxy primer, which is your base bottom coat, which is the most important part because that's what's against the bare steel. Filled everything very nicely. I blocked it out. I put another coat of HS primer, which is a gray primer on top, very easy wet sanding primer. We wet sanded it and we painted it. Back in the vintage day of that era, they would not put clear on a car. It would be a single stage, whether it be lacquer or enamel. I ended up putting 3 coats of color on it and 3 coats of clear on it. These days, the products that they make are so much nicer. In my opinion, it's the only way to go because it's going to make the car last. Certain people would say, oh my God, you did the wrong thing. But if you put a single stage on a car and you go to car shows, you can tell that it's a single stage because if it sits out in the sun, it fades. If you're gonna do a car, you're gonna do it right and you do it, the way it should be done.
One of the tough decisions we made was to replace the tires in the car. The tires were white walls, which of course they didn't have back in 1921 when this car was made.
You wouldn't think, being the size of the tire they were, that they would give you much of a hard time getting them off the wheel. We just couldn't get the bead to come off. It's amazing the tolerance between the rubber tire and the steel wheel.
The secret was a little soap and Jim spent a lot of time also with me and it was just, we worked on it together and it did work. Finished product, put the air in it and hope for the best. And we made out very well because they're still holding air. And that's the good thing.
And they look great.
Yeah.
As we got into the removing the upholstery, we found the original cloth insulation on the wire had disintegrated basically and was no longer safe to use.
They had 5 wires butt connected together down below. They were all power wires. No protection in any of the circuits. So I added just a very small 4-circuit fuse panel, which is underneath the rear seat. You can access it from either the seat area or from underneath the car. It's not visible, but it added just a layer of protection in case anything ever happened. The fuse would blow instead of lighting the car up. Something you wouldn't really enjoy. The driver's side of the car, the armrest, if you will, had a very large on-off switch, which it didn't disconnect any of the lighting circuits, but it did disconnect all the batteries and electric motor in that end of the car. When we got that opened up, the wood was cracked. There was some charring in there.
The old wire must have hit the... Look at that. Come around here, Bill. You can see it better.
Oh yeah, nice.
Probably at some point, looks like it could have caught fire. So we decided to remake the wood piece so that it was strong and it would hold up. Once we had the new interior in it, we didn't want to have to go back in. We didn't want to just patch the wood and have something happen to it down the road. The on-off switch, I insulated underneath, redid the cables, make sure that nothing was going to hit anything and cause any arcing or anything like that, so that was all taken care of. I made a full wiring schematic of every wire in the car before I started taking it apart, because there's nothing to go by. There's no books to look at. If I ever want to go back, once I start going in and ripping in there and making a few changes here and there, if I ever want to go back and see where did this wire go originally, I can always look at my original drawings. Now it's all good. Brand new bushings in the spindle. Had to have new kingpins made. The old ones, there was too much variation in the shaft up and down, you know. So he says he would just make new ones, which is great because my movement that way is good, but so I made these little shims. I already have the original shim in there. This is just to take up the difference. Get everybody lined up here. That's all rebuilt. Everything, all the tolerances are very, very good now.
That's what I'm thinking. You put a little, like a pinstripe of either red or, I think gold would look cool. Like a gold pinstripe would look better on the black.
Yeah.
That'll look good on the wheels.
Yep.
Probably.
And then you're gonna do the stripe the same color.
Yeah.
Matched the color to the wheels perfectly. What he did was he taped it off with some fine line tape, and he spun a stripe right on there like nobody's business.
Like it?
Match those wheels nicely.
You're less apt to make a mistake if you take the time.
Yes. If you jump into things, you may regret it later.
Yeah,
Well, it started out that we were going to fix the leak and fix the brakes. Right. That was
always
a
that.
month ago. And it's like, the rest of the car, I will just.
I've seen that happen. Why not? It's only money.
It's only money. So we decided to go down the path of black. We went with a red interior with a vintage cloth that in a diamond shape, which was consistent with some of the pictures of interiors from Milburn's back in the day. They had diamond patterns.
All right, should that have? Something here? Decorate it up a little?
That'll look nice.
This is what we want.
Yeah.
You guys can get your help for a second?
Looks awesome.
The craftsmanship, it's absolutely outstanding. And just look at the car. Everything from the upholstery to the paint and the stuff you can't see. The little details that were done, the latches, the catches, the things that we did to finish the car and make it work properly and make everything, that was truly the stuff that was much appreciated, but you don't get to see very often. was entered in the Greenwich Concourse, which was June the 1st. 2 weeks after Greenwich this year, in the middle of June, we went to Klingberg Concours d'Elegance.
I mean, it's just the coolest car.
It's quite the women's car, which it was back in the day and still is. The most common reaction we get from people is always, I didn't know they had electric cars back then.
Electric car.
That is by far the #1 question or comment you get, and people are astounded that a third of the vehicles on the road in 1900 were electric and a third were steam and the remainder were gasoline. It won the Klingberg Award, so we were very pleased and proud that the judges appreciated the craftsmanship.
Milburn Light Electric, 1921, owned by Bill Lilly from Gates Ferry, Connecticut.
Right.
Congratulations.
What a great car. So we're going to give you the Klingberg trophy.
Can we get a picture of you out in front with the trophy?
These cars find me. I get captivated with them and fall in love with them. They're just because they're a challenge to get going. They're different. They're not like a Model T where there's tens of thousands of them around. This is one of 55 that are known to exist in the world. So they're pretty special automobiles. And this one, I have to believe, is one of the, if not the best looking one, it's one of the top cars that you'll ever see.